Alright guys, I want to welcome you back to It's Our Time to Be Free. And we've been talking about our inner critic. If you watch my previous video, I talked about how you can start recognizing that inner critic, because you have to know when that inner critic is talking to you, because that inner critic can really sabotage your life. So what better way than to know your inner critic is to, and is to really recognize it, because how can you fight it? How will you be able to fight that inner critic if you don't even recognize it's sabotaging your life? Now, I know that everybody's inner critic is different. And there's some common things that you can look for, when that inner critic starts talking to you, because these commonalities that we find in this, and most of the time they aren't even true. So we want you to be aware of these patterns in order to recognize your inner critic. Now, the very first thing that you want to recognize or become aware of are the harsh words that you tell yourself. Okay? Your inner critic is not nice. It can be downright mean, and that should be obvious, to many people. When we're telling ourselves we can't do something and we're not good enough, you know, that inner critic, that voice, it tends to go beyond just being unkind. It's just downright mean. Think about it. The things that we tell ourselves can be mean at times. So when you notice yourself having these thoughts that are pretty harsh, I want you to take note of it, because it's probably your inner critic. So it's okay to give yourself some constructive criticism and for you to strive to do better, but the type of critical message that, especially a negative critical message, it's usually not productive for us, and it's not encouraging at all. It kind of really brings us down and holds us back in life. So don't listen to it. Don't listen to those harsh words you tell yourself. We do it all the time. We're human. Now, the next thing that you want to become aware of is comparisons. Unfair comparisons. Guys, your inner critic is is fantastic at comparing your abilities, your possessions, the things that you have in life, and your life in whole, to those of other people. Guys, these comparisons are never fair. They are never fair, because you can't compare your life, the things that you have, and your abilities to anyone else, because you are a unique individual. You are a unique person. Everybody's going to be different. So the only person that you should be comparing yourself to is yourself. Are you better today than you were yesterday? So rather than always comparing yourself to others, start comparing yourself to you. Do you measure up to the person that you want to be? Okay? Because these messages don't do anything to serve you, and they should be ignored. Your only competition is yourself. Now, the next thing we want to become aware of is the repetitive messages we say to ourselves. We talked about yesterday that inner voice tends to say the same thing over and over again, because we keep, reliving the experience over and over again. When you find yourself ruminating or continuing to think about the same uh, traits, that and agonizing past events over and over again, I want you to find a way to interrupt those thoughts. If you find yourself talking about it, yell, stop. You're interrupting that pattern. you know and when you tell yourself stop, think of something else positive. Okay, so that is a perfect way to interrupt those negative thoughts, is to tell yourself to stop. Take a break and try to look at things more realistically. Guys, your inner critic repeats these same harmful messages as a way to sabotage you. We don't want to be sabotaged. We want to live healthy, productive lives. So the more you tell yourself these words, the more likely you are to believe them. Because everything that we tell ourselves, if we tell ourselves enough times, we start to believe it. We start to live out those messages. So this is definitely a case for reframing a negative message to a more positive, realistic, realistic one. So think about that. Those repetitive things, those things we harp on all the time. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. If we continue to tell ourselves that, those are repeated messages that we tell ourselves. We'll begin to start living it. We'll begin to start believing it. But we can stop those negative, repetitive messages by just telling ourselves to stop. When we hear it, as soon as we notice it, tell yourself to stop. Okay? Now, the next thing, we want to talk about things that's not in your best interest. Okay, it's important to emphasize once again that your inner critic is not speaking up for your best interest. Okay, it's not a tool that works to help you do better. The word critic is in the name. It's criticizing you. You wouldn't want to be critical of a friend if you wanted to encourage them or lift them up. Now, would you? So please, please, please be kinder to yourself. Okay, because shutting up that inner critic is an act of self-love and empowerment. Okay, there are far better ways to push yourself to achieve than to keep beating yourself up for the things that you haven't done, for the things that you think you should be doing. So keep these things in mind when it comes to identifying that mean voice that lives inside our head. So these tips can help you recognize your inner critic. You know, that way you'll be able to serve yourself better, and pursue this journey of becoming more stronger and more in charge of your thoughts because you want to become the master of your life and you can do it too. So take all these steps into consideration when you start having these negative thoughts arrive. All right, so I hope you guys found some value in this. If you did, please go ahead and like this video. Comment down below if you have any questions, and subscribe to my channel, all right, for more content just like this. All right, because I just strive for you guys to live a more healthy, better life, uh, and transform those negative messages and negative thoughts that we have into a more positive one. All right, so I appreciate you guys again. As I always say, it's our time to be free. I'll see you in the next video.